So, without further hesitation or pausing or delay, I want you all to kind of gear up. Okay, because Pastor Courtney is going to come and he's going to deliver the word. I need a little more.
How's everybody doing this morning? It's good to see all your smiling faces. Just go ahead and pray. God, we just come to you today. First, we just want to tell you truly how much we love you. And we're just thankful to be able to be in your house today, to be in your presence today. And God, we're grateful. And so we just ask that you would be with us today. And I just pray truly that you increase as I decrease, and that all hearts and minds are receptive to what you want to speak, to what you want to say to every single one of us. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in your sight, for you are my strength, you are my Redeemer. It's in Jesus' name that we pray. Everyone say amen. Give your neighbor a high five. Tell them it's about to go down. Yo, what's up? There we go. Man, we've been talking about this series of opening the door, right? Opening the door to so many things. And a door can mean going in, and the doors and everything. I just, for some reason, thought I was going to fall down or something. I don't know. I just told you that story. But today we're going to be talking about communication. Breaking through the barrier of communication. Opening the door for communication, but breaking the barrier of communication. How many know that communication can be a fun thing? Communicating with each other can be kind of interesting, right? And it's so funny, man, because communication, we have to communicate accurately, we have to communicate well. Me and my queen, we are still learning how to communicate with each other. Sometimes there's a breakdown in communication, believe it or not. And so one day she was like, hey, would you put some lotion on the bottom half of my leg? I said, okay. So I'm sitting up there and I start lotioning her feet, and then she's looking at me all crazy, and I'm like, what? She said, that's not the bottom half of my leg. I was like, yeah, it is. Bottom half, foot, going up to below the knee, right? She says, no, the bottom half begins like right above the ankle, and we're looking at each other. I'm like, but now I'm clear. I'm clear on what her bottom half means. When she says bottom half, okay, so she means between the knee and the ankle and that part, right? So, but communication can be a challenge, right? What we say, what we mean, all those things. And so, Ephesians chapter 4, verse 15, it says, and there's a thought here, it says, love relationships are built on grace-filled truth-telling. Instead, we will speak the truth in love. Somebody say truth and love. Truth and love. So some people are like, man, I just tell it like it is. Well, you need to tell it like it is with love. Have you ever had some Kool-Aid without sugar in it? It's a little sour. Right? So you need to add love. Love is the sugar that goes inside of it to make it, alright? Anyway, let me keep going. Instead, we will speak the truth in love, growing in every way more and more like Christ. I want to read y'all something to tell you about communication barriers. And I thought this was funny. Maybe y'all might not think it's funny, but I thought it was funny. And there's a memo from the CEO. So you can imagine the CEO, he has his company, and he writes a memo to his vice president. He says, today at 11 o'clock, there will be a total eclipse of the sun. This is when the sun disappears behind the moon for 2 minutes. As this is something that cannot be seen every day, employees will be allowed to come and watch the eclipse from the parking lot. Staff should meet in the lot at 10 to 11, when I will deliver a short speech introducing the eclipse and giving some background information. Safety goggles will be made available at a small cost. So now, of course, the vice president, he has to write a memo telling him what's going on to his production managers. Today at 10 to 11, all staff should meet in the car park. This will be followed by a total eclipse of the sun, which will appear for 2 minutes. For a moderate cost, this will be made safe with goggles. The CEO will deliver a short speech beforehand to give us some information. This is not something that can be seen every day. So of course the production manager has to go to the floor manager and make sure they're tracking what's going on. So he writes to his team, the CEO today will deliver a short speech to make the sun disappear for 2 minutes in the form of an eclipse. This is something that cannot be seen every day, so staff will meet in the car park at 10 or 11. This will be safe if you pay a moderate cost. So of course the floor manager, you got to let all the supervisors know what's going on, right? At 10 or 11, staff are going to go to the car park, where the CEO will eclipse the sun for 2 minutes. This doesn't happen every day. It will be safe, and as usual, it will cost you. So finally the supervisor has to tell the staff, right? Some staff will go to the park today to see the CEO disappear. It is a pity this doesn't happen every day. Talk about breakdown in communication, right? And so there's 3 reasons why we have communication breakdowns. There's 3 reasons why we have communication. The first one is we make assumptions. Proverbs chapter 18, verse 13. Anyone who answers without listening is foolish and confused. Got quiet. I didn't write this. But anyone who answers without listening, it says, is foolish and confused. And I've been there many a times. As a matter of fact, you get an email, right? And when you get the email, have you noticed it has a subject line?
Yeah.
Right? Who replies to an email just on the subject line? But we do that a lot in communication. As someone is talking to us, as someone's communicating to us, we're like, oh yeah, I got what you want to say. I got it figured out. And you already start to talk and respond before they even finish with the message. Y'all don't do that in here. Y'all listen well. As a matter of fact, let's just talk about how hard it is. As someone's talking, aren't you already coming up with what you want to say back? While they're still talking? Okay, y'all feel like y'all want me to move away from that one. Let me say this. Assumptions is the lowest form of information that you can operate from. Assumption is the lowest form of information that you can operate from. Matter of fact, it's interesting because in the book of James it says, be what? Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. Quick to listen, slow to speak, slow to anger. A lot of times I got that backwards. I was quick to speak, slow to listen, and quick to get angry because they didn't listen to me. Anybody in here can relate? Man, it's getting quiet, tough crowd. All right, let me give you one more since y'all liked all the other stuff. And it's one of my favorites. The word listen and silent uses the same letters.
Oh, there you go.
We got silent.
Thank you.
You got silent because we want to listen.
We're all trying to rearrange
Everybody's like, the word listen
And silent.
and silent uses the same letters.
That's good. That's good.
And here God, He created us, and pay attention to this. We have one mouth, 2 eyes, 2 ears. Mouth equals output. Eyes and ears equals
Input. So we got 4
let that marinate, teriyaki sauce. Do y'all think God was like trying to... she's not even talking, she said, think God was trying to tell us something? All right, let's keep going. Number 2, we make false accusations. We make false accusations. Accusations in itself is not a bad thing. Actually, accusation means to bring to an account, right? So you want to hold something accountable. But the key in that, it says, don't make false accusations. Let's look at what the word says here in 1 Peter. For the scriptures say, if you want to enjoy life and see many happy days, keep your tongue from speaking evil and your lips from telling lies. Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. It's not in your outline, but you can write it down. Exodus chapter 23, verse 1. You must not pass along false rumors. You must not cooperate with evil people by lying on the witness stand. Have you ever heard of the story of the Norfolk 4? You should go research it. So it's from Norfolk, Virginia. There's four gentlemen who were convicted of murder and rape. Okay. Now, the interesting thing about the story, what makes the story so powerful, is that a gentleman, a sailor, came home. So they're all sailors. One of them came home. He found his wife. He found his wife was murdered. And the police come to do an investigation. And they go asking around. They start saying, hey, well, who do y'all think maybe did it? Or what do y'all think maybe happened? And literally, one of the neighbors next door said, this guy, I think he liked her. So what do? They go pick this guy up and they take him into the interrogation room. He was in there for I'm talking about hours upon hours, no food, no water, and they're just grilling him. And if you've never been in any type of SEER training or any type of training where you're sleep deprivation and you're hungry and you're thirsty, I mean that can be a very, very tough place to be in. So finally, after he's just tired, he starts to kind of trip out. He said, I don't know, maybe I did do it. They said, yeah, you did do it. And yeah, I don't know, maybe I did. Maybe I blacked out. So he confesses to the murder. And they say, hey, we need you to write this confession out. So he writes out this confession to the murder. But then as more evidence come about, they realize that this couldn't have been done by just one person. So it had to be maybe more people had to be involved. So they go back to him and say, who else was involved? And guess what he does? Chris. Name's a random name. Chris is on the ship doing his thing. They come pick him up. Guess what they do? The process starts all over again. They're grilling him and grilling him and grilling him and going in on him. And guess what he does? Who else was in it? Joe. Well, they go grab Joe. This is a true story. This is a true story. And they grill him, and before you know it, it's like 7 people they went and picked up because everybody started after being tired and impressed, they start naming people, just naming names. And they was only able to convict 4. So they go to jail. Their life is turned upside down on false confessions based on originally a false accusation. Now here's the interesting thing. Literally, the person who did convict the crime was in jail, heard about it, and went to brag about it. And they found DNA, they found everything, and it was him the whole time. And all these other people confessed something based off of original false accusation. I mean, that's a huge barrier when it comes to communication. And now they've been exonerated, they've been freed, but you realize how the power of false accusations, now he made a false one against this one and that one, and now all of these lives were turned upside down based on a false accusation. Let's look at number 3. We have apprehensions. We have apprehensions. 1 John chapter 4, verse 18. There is no fear in love, but perfect love drives out fear, because fear has to do with punishment. The one who fears is not made perfect in love. There is no fear in love. Perfect love drives out fear. You know, it's interesting because a lot of people ask the question, what is the cure for fear? Some people say action. Some people say faith. But we got God's word on. You realize that the cure for fear is love? Let me prove that point to you. I have this cute little 5-year-old, and she has this tendency to wake up in the middle of the night and is like, man, is scared or I had a nightmare or something, whatever. And it's interesting because I don't tell her action, like, hey, go do an action, go do something. You know what she wants? She wants the love of her dad to come and lay down in the bed with her. And as I go in, I lay down in the bed with her. Perfect love drives out all fear. Now I wake up the next day and my shoulders half asleep and I'm kind of all, because it's a little twin baby bed, and like I have to be in the bed with her. But she gets to lay out still sprawled out, and I'm just on the edge, and I don't know how I wake up in my neck. I got a crick in my neck, and I'm all messed up and jacked up. But there ain't fathers in here that can relate to it. Man, the struggle is real. And she wakes up well rested. I'm all pent up and limp. She's like, Dad, what's wrong with you? Don't worry about that. It's okay. Perfect love casts out fear. You know, the interesting thing about they're talking about apprehension, God wants to do the same thing for every single one of us. That He wants to be beside us to cast out every single piece of fear that we have. Talk about apprehensions. Another apprehension that we have is we have apprehensiveness about our weaknesses. 1 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 3. I came to you in weakness, timid, and trembling. In 1 Corinthians chapter 9, verse 22, when I'm with those who are weak, I share this weakness, for I want to bring the weak to Christ. Yes, I try to find common ground with everyone, doing everything I can to save some. Let me talk to you about this for a minute. I'm going to be transparent and be honest. So, I like to work out. And at one point in time in my life, I was sitting there, and me and my queen, we started getting into these arguments about me working out. And I was getting upset because it seemed like every time I look up, I had to change my gym time or not go to the gym because I had to pick up the kids or do something. And I remember I almost felt like a kid, kind of just throwing the tantrums, I was upset. And my queen, she was like, what is wrong with you? It's just the gym. But here's you want to know the real factor about it? Talking about the power of communication, talk about weaknesses. I realized that I never really opened up to my queen about my challenges, about my physical ailments. So a lot of you know my background is military, and man, I've been through the fire, so my body is basically from head to toe kind of just broke up. And the interesting thing to combat that is to work out. To combat some of the ailments that you have is to go work out and everything. And so I was sitting there, I remember we was in the bedroom, and I'm throwing another one of my tantrums. And I'm like, man, I feel like my gym time is getting taken away. And she's like, it's just the gym. And I realized, I finally told her, I had to tell her, my queen, I'm scared of getting older. And she said, what do you mean? I said, listen, if I was in perfect health, even if I got older, stuff is just going to deteriorate. That's just a natural how things work. I feel like I'm already behind the ball because my body is already broken up from my former career. And I already feel like I'm against. So right now, I'm nervous about getting old. And so I work out not to look a certain way. I work out so I can be able to function. And I need this. And it's interesting because before that, she thought it was just about the gym. But I had to become weak and vulnerable and honest with her to share with her, this is the true fear that I have. And guess what? Now she's my #1 advocate for making sure I'm able to go work out because she knows the heart behind it. Because I had to become weak. I had to become vulnerable and communicate to her. And sometimes, we can communicate the fruit, but really we got to get to deal with the root. The fruit was me, I just didn't get to go to the gym and she's seeing my tantrums, but now she knows my heart behind it. Now she understands that he's not just doing this just because he wants to throw a tantrum. No, he has a fear that he's trying to deal with it. Y'all realize for me, you Mr. Strong and get back to tell my wife, I am scared. Because we have this lie of the enemy, man. If you tell her you're scared, if you tell her maybe you're weak, if you tell her, maybe she won't respect you as much. Maybe she won't think you're this strong guy as much. And maybe she won't think No, she became my biggest advocate. Because remember, we learned a few weeks ago, God said it's not good for man to be alone, so he gives us what? A helper, which is our wives. I realized, how can she help me if she doesn't know? How can she be a help to me if she doesn't know what I need help with? Are y'all hearing this today? Being honest about our weaknesses, right? This next one. We are apprehensive about experiencing rejection. Proverbs chapter 29, verse 25. Fear of man will prove to be a snare, but whoever trusts in the Lord is kept safe. It's interesting when we look at that passage there. No one likes to be rejected. No one likes to be rejected. And it's actually, outside of public speaking, it's one of the #1 fears of rejection. So now I just talked about being weak, but you realize that being open and being vulnerable also sets me up to possibly be rejected. And let me help you out. A lot of times we'll go through life and we'll do certain things to try to avoid this thing called disappointment. But how many of you know disappointment can't be avoided? And if we go through life and we try to avoid disappointment, we try to protect ourselves, and we put up all of these walls and talk about barriers to communication, being honest, being open. And I love watching little kids, man. Little kids get it right. Little kids communicate great. They communicate. Have you had the little kid tell you the truth, but it sucks, but they tell you the truth? And you're mad, but you love them at the same time. They just tell you the honesty, like, ooh, I don't like, I love you. Kids communicate great because they communicate vulnerability. They will tell you in a heartbeat when they don't like something or it hurts, I don't feel good. The kids who communicate, all you know is a quote I heard a while back, we should treat children like adults and adults like children. It's interesting, I watch kids communicate throughout their barriers and they face all of these barriers of weaknesses, of being rejected. They just put themselves out there. And have you ever seen a kid get rejected? What do? They come right back. I reject my kids all the time. Daddy, can I have ice cream? No. Dad, can I have Skittles? No. Dad, can I have Starburst? No. It's like rejection beams. I'm going to put myself out there. I'm going to be weak. I need sugar. Hey, can you give me some sugar? No, it's not dinner time. All right. I'll be back. And it's funny. It's like they think we forget, right? And it's so funny, man. We have our bedroom closed, our door closed, man, because they just find their little feet, just find their way there. And Destiny's so relentless. And I told her little hands come up under the door. I'm like, get away from my door. And she'll sit there and camp out. Rejection means nothing to her. But somehow we get older. And we wear the rejection personally. And we lose maybe a little bit of our confidence. We lose maybe a bit of our tenacity. And I'm like, man, just love watching little kids. And let me just say this, man. Have you ever seen two little kids argue and have a disagreement? And what happens 5 minutes later? They're playing again and everything, life is moving on, and then we as the adult come in and say, hey, I thought you were mad at Johnny. Oh, I was? We teach them, I'm about to get in trouble for this. We teach them how to not communicate. We teach them how to not work it out. We teach them how to hold on to the offense. We teach them, I thought you guys were upset. Now y'all best friends again. Yeah, they're looking at us like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to go. We argued, we figured it out. Now let's go play. Kids get it right. Kids get it right. We should take a lesson out of their book of how to process through rejection. They don't wear that. They don't want to come back again. And they go again and again. Imagine if we just maybe, that's what I love. If you notice, the Bible's always referencing the heart of a child. Are y'all hearing this today? And then we're talking about communication. 4 takeaways. We're talking about some grace and love. Isn't it interesting how we can give grace to a total stranger?
Oh, yeah.
But our loved one, you get none. Can I be honest? Invite a guest to your home. Invite a guest in your house. Let them spill something. What do? You even volunteer to clean it up. Oh, have a seat. I got this. Don't worry about it. Oh, no. This, I'll buy another one. Don't worry about it. Your loved one knocks over that same thing. Spills that same thing.
I don't understand. What is he?
Uh-oh. You meant to do that. You know that gets under my skin. A guest says something maybe offensive to you, but the guest upset. They even come back later. Hey, I didn't know that. Oh, don't worry about it. You didn't know. Yeah, it's all good. It didn't even bother me. Let your loved one come and communicate something. Am I talking to somebody? I know y'all want to move on, but I got to park there for a minute. Because it's real, right? It's real, guests, we'll roll out the red carpet, and the ones that we do life with every day, we hold them so raw to the fire. I knew you meant to do that. You knew that bothered me. And can we be honest, we're just all human, and I just missed it that day. I'm sorry. But we're ready to go, the classic, you should have known. Should I have? I know now. Stepped on that one, don't go that way, right? But in communication, let me tell you the best time to fight. I know we talked about conflict. You know the best time to talk about things is during peace. Me and my queen have some of the best arguments when it's not argument time. We'll go out to dinner, we'll schedule. Because how many know in the heat of the moment, it's probably not safe. We'll, matter of fact, we were talking about communication the other night. We're doing a Deep Love series. And I learned a classic example, because they say don't let the sun go down on your wrath. My queen, man, she loves that scripture. So if it's midnight, and I'm getting into bed, ready to go to bed, she's like, oh, we gonna talk. So I learned to get my disagreements out the way early in the morning. Because we're opposites. I get over stuff fast. 2 minutes later, I'm like, oh, let's roll out. We're good. You good? I'm good. Let's roll. She's like, no, we gotta let this sit for a minute. I gotta hang out. So we come to agreement of how long, before we meet back up again and kind of clear. So I realized that she's gonna be seriously waiting. So I need to get all of my offenses. I need to offend her early in the morning. So that way, by noon, we're good. So that night, I can go to bed. It's a great plan, right? And so I'll pause. That's a lot of wisdom in that. So if it's about 4 p.m., I'm like, do I really want to offend on that? Nah, because I want to go to bed tonight, so I'll wait. So I'll wait till the morning to make her mad, and then I'm just kidding. But I am aware of time. Trust me. I am aware of time. What was I talking about? What is You must make it safe. You must make it safe. And we see that in verse 1 John chapter 4:18. And I did tell you that story for a reason, but it'll come back to me later. But truly, you must make it safe to be able to communicate. We're talking about, that's what it was. Me and my queen, we communicate our best arguments during the time of peace. So we'll schedule out a beautiful moment to talk about the conflict, because everybody's defenses are down, everything's good, and you'll be surprised what comes out of that. You'll be surprised what gets built out of that. Let's look at the next one. Number 2, you have to take a risk. You have to take a risk. Confess your trespasses to one another and pray for one another that you may be healed. It's one of the hardest walks to come to someone and tell them that you're wrong. Tell them that I'm sorry. Tell them that, we apologize to our children. Dead serious. We apologize to our children. If we missed the mark, we go to our children and say, hey, baby girl, Dad missed it on that one. Mom missed it on that one. Will you forgive me? And I'd like to think it's working, because we seem to have the greatest respect of our daughters, because one, they see we're real and that we're not superhuman, that, hey, we missed the mark. Number 3, you must practice sending clear messages. But let your yes be what?
Yes.
And your no? No. Lest you fall into judgment. Talk about clarity of communication. Let your yes be yes. Let your no be no. And it's so funny, man. Kids are good at that, man. Matter of fact, one of their very first words they learn is no. And they're clear on that no, right? And they're clear on their yes. And we should be clear as well in our communication. We always like to say what you mean what you say, right? Be clear on what you want to communicate. And number 4, you must practice listening to understand. Proverbs chapter 4:7. The beginning of wisdom is this: get wisdom, though it costs you all you have, get understanding. So get wisdom, but though it costs you all you have, you got to think about that. Even if it costs you everything, it is worth it to get an understanding of what's being communicated. Now I'm going to close with this thought here. I was talking to my friend about this about a couple of weeks ago. You ever heard it said that communication is a two-way street? This is all Courtneyism right now, okay? I'm working this out. I actually think that's inaccurate. Here's why. Hear me out. See, some of y'all are like, man, he's gone. He went off the deep end. The reason why I think that's a little bit inaccurate is, well, it can be. But you ever seen a two-way street? What's in the middle of the two-way street? A yellow line. What's the rule of the yellow line?
Don't cross.
Two-way street, yellow line's in the middle. The rule is don't cross. Because what happens if you cross the yellow line? Crash, head on, run people off the road. I watch, because communication is flow of information. I watch people all the time run each other off the road in their communication. I watch people all the time head on crashes and try to communicate, because you want to try to communicate with them. The first issue is we're both possibly could be headed in 2 different directions. And now I swerve over to try to communicate with you. You swerve over my lane, and we're all running each other off the road. Can I introduce maybe another thought to you? Is that okay? I was being nice on my own anyway. I got the mic. I was just being nice. Laughter's good, right? But I'm still going to introduce it. Think of this. What if communication really should be a one-way street? Where we are both headed in the same direction. We both are coming to common ground. We both want the same thing. Are you hearing this? And here's where you know you got really good. Is when we both can decide to take the same car. It's one thing, to drive beside each other, windows down, and kind of yelling back and forth. And some of y'all did it at the light, trying to yell, and then the green turns green. Y'all trying to keep up with each other and doing this number, right? Just imagine if we got so good in our communication. At first we established we both want the same thing. A lot of times me and my queen, we found out a lot of our disagreements just because we just seen it a different angle. I thought you should take 8th Street, I want to take 4th Street. I saw traffic, you didn't see traffic, but we both wanted the same thing. First just finding that common ground of both wanting the same thing. Are you hearing that? And now we're getting pretty good where we can kind of decide whose car are we going to take. In other words, whose idea are we going to go with? Whose suggestion are we going to go with? Maybe yours had more gas, and maybe my tires are a little low. Maybe that we can get in. That's such an agreement. That's such a one accord in our communication that, man, we will both step and step. And now we just have a family rule. We will not move out on anything unless we're on the one-way street. Because plenty of days. And every now and then, let me be honest, we end up on the two-way street. But we also know the indicators. Oh, we got ran off. Oh, hold on. Let's get in the same direction. Get in the same place, amen. And that's what God is wanting every single one of us in the barriers to tear down the barriers of communication. Let's create some one-way streets. Let's first do we not want the same thing? And let's come into agreement on that. Let's do our communication, amen. Let's pray. God, we're here today as your people. We heard your word and talking about the barriers of communication. And there's so many things that could come up that could get in the way, but truly, God, I pray that we all find common ground. We find common ground in our marriages. We find common ground in our friendships. We find common ground in work, maybe in our businesses that we work at, our places of employment. I just pray that everyone walks in this week with a fresh new set of eyes, a fresh new set of ears, to be sensitive to your voice. That maybe there's a promotion literally waiting on the other side of just really coming to an agreement. Maybe it's been a two-way street and everything. Okay, now that makes sense. That's why, man, we've been kind of running each other off the road, or we've been crashing into each other. But truly, let us sit down and find the common ground thing. Let's get on the one-way street. God, truly, you want us all on one accord. The power of one accord, the power of being one. And so I thank you, God, that we're becoming master communicators. Master communicators, and we communicate with one another. Let us tear down the barriers. Let us become weak where we need to become weak. Let's be vulnerable where we need to become vulnerable, to truly just live in authentic relationships. Because, God, we are not called to do life alone. We're called to do life together. We are truly better when we are together. And I thank you for everyone that is here today, that you heard your word and they're going to activate it in their lives. And so, God, we just thank you so much for who you are, God. We give you all the praise. We give you all the glory. In Jesus' name we pray. And everyone say, amen. Amen. Well, church family, we're going to go back into worship, and then Pastor David will be up to show.